Happy Friday, everyone! Welcome back to my channel. I'm Sonnet, the owner and creator behind Sonnet's Garden Blooms, and in today's video, I am taking something that I had been talking about for a while. It was something that I thrifted while I was at the Goodwill Bins. I had a weak moment and I grabbed something that I probably typically wouldn't. I'll be honest, I am not a big fan of furniture pieces that have hearts cut out of them. It was so darn cute though, I couldn't pass it up. And in today's video, I am completely transforming it. So I cannot wait to hear what you guys think. Here is the cute little piece of furniture that I found at the Goodwill Bins with a heart. And when I saw it, it was in such good condition. It caught my eye and I just was like, I can't pass it up. Even though, like I said, I do not like those hearts, I thought I will embrace it this one time because it's so dang cute and I just couldn't. So on a live, someone suggested that I fill it in with the IOD clay. How I did this is I taped the back with blue tape and then I started filling it in, and after 24 hours I removed the tape and it took days, you guys. This is really thick, so it took days for it to dry. I decided to use the mold called Juliette from IOD, and I'm using IOD air dry clay as well. And at first I was just gonna pop it in, and I remembered that this one is really detailed and I wanted to make sure that I ended up getting every little piece out. So I am using cornstarch and I am going to dust the inside with cornstarch, and that is really suggested when you're using the molds. What this does, it helps the clay release out of the mold, so none of the molds will get stuck. The key here is just make sure that you tap out any excess of the cornstarch. What I also like to do is take my air dry clay and really spread it out a bit and then lay it down and take my thumb and just move it into all of the areas of the actual mold itself. Now, the first chunk that I had grabbed, anytime I open up air dry clay, I always like to store it in a Ziploc bag with a piece of paper towel that I wet. I fold it up, I wet it, and I put it in there. It just helps the clay retain moisture. For whatever reason, I don't know if the Ziploc bag was not sealed properly, but when I reopened it, the paper towel was completely dried out. And the air dry clay seemed a bit tough. I was still able to work with it. It just wasn't as easy as a brand new piece that you would open up. And so that is just a tiny little bit of tidbit information. Always store it with a piece of wet paper towel. And initially, you guys, what I was going to do is, because of the amount of detail that this mold has, and it's so intricate, I wanted to actually use the casting resin, and I thought about it, but then it made me think, on the back, if I cast all of it, I mean, I guess I could have chopped it up and placed it about, but it would be so much easier to finagle pieces in with the air dry clay because it's so much more movable. And the casting resin, once you pour it, it is a little bit pliable, but not as forgiving as the IOD clay. Once you have all the air dry clay in there, flip it over and let gravity do the work for you. I start on one side and I just peel the mold back, and the air dry clay just falls out of the mold, and it really has a lot to do with that cornstarch. Now, as you can see, the reason I decided to use the air dry clay versus the resin is because this is one mold. It's like one big piece. It's not several different molds. So I guess I could have chopped it up, but I wanted to be able to fill in areas as well. So I am using Type Bond paint, which is my go-to glue for the molds. And what I do is I actually just start breaking the mold apart, and I kind of try to figure out where I want to place some of this, and I just break it apart where I think a chunk of it is going to fit. Then once I do that, I flip it over, I put it in the palm of my hand, flip it over, and then that's when I start applying Titebond. And the key for applying the Titebond is I squirt a little in the center, and then I take my finger and I smooth it to the edges. You don't want too much glue on your piece. You want to be able to just feather it to the edges, so when you lay it down, it doesn't ooze out, because once that glue hardens, and if you have a lot of that glue on the outside, or if it like oozes out, you're going to see it, and then you'll have a lot of cleanup. So start in the center and then feather it to the edges, and you'll be so much happier. So here I am just taking chunk by chunk, and I start filling in the entire front. And I did get a little glue here and there, and I just wiped away any of that excess glue, and I just kept working though with each of the chunks. And then after I got everything laid down, I had a few extra pieces, and then I took those few extra pieces and I just filled in here and there. And you guys, I love how it turned out. Now, what I did is I let this dry for a bit, and then I am going to do the back. But look at this. Did it not turn out super cute? And already it is completely camouflaging the entire heart. Here is the back side, same thing, totally camouflaged it. I'm going to let this dry, and then I'm going to come back and we're going to paint it. After letting it dry for several hours, I am using Inglenook, which is a fusion mineral paint. If you have yet to use Fusion, it does have a top coat built in. So I am using the Stahlmeister Pointed Sash, and this is perfect to get into all the details of Juliette. I often talk about the Perfectionist for DIY paint, and the Perfectionist or DIY's entire paintbrush line is truly meant for that clay-based paint, and I definitely recommend using a different type of paintbrush for paints that have a top coat built in, and so the Stahlmeister paintbrushes are perfect for that. So I am applying one even coat of the Fusion paint over the entire rocking chair. I'm going to let it dry, and then I'm going to come back and add a secondary coat. One thing I should note is that it was amazing. I thought I had really good coverage over all those little intricate details of Juliette, but then after it dried and I went back in, I'm like, how did I miss so much? But that is just how detailed this beautiful mold is. So always make sure that you look at every angle when you're painting that. But this is an absolutely gorgeous mold. Now it's time to add a little distressing. I thought it was just too perfect, and I want to add a bit of dark wax to really make that mold pop. So I am using my hand sander, and you guys, I love this thing. I have definitely gotten my money's worth out of my hand sander, but I put it on one, and it allows me to have better control. And then I just touch the sander here and there just to add a little bit of distressing and just make it look all old, like it's been around for years and years. Next, I'm using DIY's dark wax and DIY's clear wax. I like to start with clear wax when I'm using any of the colored waxes. It gives me better control over the darker waxes or the whites. And so what I do is I just lay a little clear wax, and then I go in with the colored wax. And I really want to make sure I'm getting into all that detail. So I'm really taking that waxing brush and just really getting it in. And then what I do is I feather the dark wax over the entire piece. I can always go back then with clear wax and remove some of the dark wax if it's too much in an area, or I can add a little bit of dark wax if there's not enough in another area. I also like to work in sections, and so now that I have this completely covered in wax, I'm using paper towel and I'm wiping away the excess, and I just rub over the entire piece. And I love how that dark wax goes into all that detail, and then wiping away on the high spots really makes it all pop. After that, I take my waxing brush and the dark wax and I just rub over the entire piece. And as I'm going, I just take my paper towel and then wipe away any excess. And like I said earlier, if there are spots that have too much wax, just take a little bit of the clear wax, rub that area, or if you need to add a little bit more dark wax here and there, you can do that. And I just really love how this turned out. I love working with the dark waxes, the white waxes, and it just makes it just brings out all the detail of your piece. Now, as you guys are thrifting, I hope you start looking at pieces that you're picking just a little differently and realize that you can completely transform it just by using a mold, a little paint, a little wax, and look at this chair. It completely transformed, and honestly, I absolutely love it now. And no one is ever gonna know that there is a heart behind that beautiful Juliette mold. I can't wait to hear in the comments what you guys think of this upcycle. I absolutely love how that little chair turned out, you guys. I actually brought that up on a live and I talked about, how I had thrifted it, and I did not like the heart. I did not want to embrace the heart. Okay, I really didn't. And so many different suggestions came about. One person did suggest that I try to fill the heart in. And what I did, is I used that IOD clay. It comes in handy for so many other things other than for repair purposes. You can repair so much with it. Once it dries, it is rock hard. So that was completely rock hard in that heart. And then I just took that beautiful Juliette mold, you guys, and totally transformed it and camouflaged it. So you would never know that there is a heart inside that chair. But I love it, and I hope you guys did too. This week, I am coming off of my big Maker's Box launch. It was pretty draining this entire week. You wouldn't, honestly, going into it, I was like, oh, it's just going to be like any other week. It was not. So I want to thank you all for, following all my lives, watching my posts. But next week, we are back to the norm over on Facebook and YouTube with my lives. I'll be going live Monday, Wednesday, and Friday again. So I'm just really excited about getting back into my groove. And Just so you do know, if you've been following along, the Maker's Box, the launch will close effective tomorrow, which is Saturday, June 1st at midnight. And at that point, that is the last time that you can get that June box. So if you haven't heard, I did launch the Maker's Box, and inside you will get 2 exclusive Upcycled decoupage papers. And exclusive means you can't get these papers anywhere else. Royce designed them for my box, and once the boxes are sold out, they are sold out. The one thing that I am doing is I did buy a few extra papers, and any of the subscribers that once they get their box, if there is paper that they want extra of it, I will allow them to purchase that. So I have extra pieces of both Connie's paper and Royce's that will be available. With that said, you not only get 2 Upcycled decoupage papers, you get 2 of Connie's from the Painted Photographer. She creates the most beautiful rice papers, you guys, and she has done the same thing. She has created 2 rice papers for my box, and then on top of all of that, you still get curated colors chosen by me. So I give you 2 fusion mineral paints, 2 DIY clay-based paints, and 1 Sweet Pickens milk paint. And it is a great time to try some different paint colors that you may never have chosen before, and get that exclusive paper. So like I said, tomorrow is the last day. The cost of the box is $59 plus a flat rate shipping of $9. So I look forward to doing a box reveal, or unboxing I should say, on June 14th. So all of you join me on June 14th. I am going to do a live unboxing at 10 a.m. All right, you guys have yourselves a great weekend, and we will see you back Monday. Bye.